Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to discuss JSON documents. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. JSON are a standard text-based format for representing structured data on JavaScript object syntax. It is commonly used for the transmission of data between and from web applications. We're going to take a nice discussion on that, and I'm going to show you how you can manipulate JSON documents on Microsoft SQL Server, and I'll give you also some examples on JSON documents on MongoDB. I just want to clarify that this is not a MongoDB tutorial, even though we're going to see some portions of MongoDB and how they work. And obviously we got to see that just to do the comparison and to see the power of JSON documents. My name is Wally. I am a SQL Server DBA with over 25 years of experience in Microsoft SQL Server and other types of RDBMS. You may contact me in one or more ways as shown below. I'm also the founder of Data Group of PBSoft since 2013. Instructor, writer, and IT consultant since the late 90s with a growing customer base. Now, let's go see the process. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to use a temporary table. The temporary table name is going to be product data, and it's going to be a local type temp table. The table is composed of 3 columns. Main column is going to be an ID, which is an int type, identity, and primary key. We have another column called process date, which will pick out the day that the JSON document was processed. And lastly, product JSON, which is a column that's going to store the JSON document itself. Now, keep in mind that the type of column that you need to use for JSON data is nvarchar. Now, it could be an nvarchar max, like I'm using here, or it could be nvarchar 1000, 2000, depending on what you need to store. If we make it nvarchar max, it means we can store any size of JSON document. I'll leave that to you if you know the size of your documents, but if not, I will suggest to leave it as nvarchar max. Now, let's create a table. And the table has been created. Now I'm going to proceed to insert my JSON document into the product data table, specifically into the product JSON column, which is the column that's going to hold the document. This is a JSON document. As a reminder, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, which is where it was originally created in JavaScript, but it is very widely used in many other platforms and programming languages. Now, the main composition of a JSON document is known as key value pairs, where basically in comparison to SQL Server you have your columns, which you can define, and you have your values or rows. You can also have other objects within the JSON document. For example, this one I created it, and I created a dictionary, as you can see right here, and the dictionary has other key value pairs inside, where I can store additional information about the document that I'm inserting. You can also insert arrays, as you see right here, which is another type of document too. And the arrays can have multiple values as well. You can define more than one array and more than one dictionary within the JSON document. Now, let's proceed to insert the JSON document. All right, document has been inserted. Now that we have our JSON document in the table, it's time to double check if it's a valid JSON document, because it could be not. Now, to do that, we use the ISJSON function. Now, the ISJSON function was introduced in SQL Server 2016. So if you have a version below that, you won't have it. Now, to use it, we use a select statement. We read from the table, and using a where clause, we use the ISJSON function calling the column that has the JSON document. And we assign it an equals 1, so only JSON documents or valid JSON documents will show up. Let's run this, and there it is. Now, the way it is and the way it looks now is not very human readable. For that, we have to use another function called JSON_value, which is what I'm going to show you right now. So you can format your JSON into a more human readable format on SQL Server. Okay, now I'm going to explain the JSON underscore value function. This function was introduced in Microsoft SQL Server 2016. Its main purpose is to retrieve the data from a JSON document on a table. Now, the way to use it is with a select statement, as you can see on the screen. All you got to do is call the function, and within parentheses, you need to specify the name of the column that has the JSON document, a comma, then right after that, single quotes, use a dollar sign, a period, and then the name of the column that you want to retrieve. Optionally, as I have been doing, I use an alias. In this case, the reason I use alias everywhere is because the names of the columns are not very human friendly. For example, this is prod code, which is product code. Prod name equals product name, and so on. Now, if you want to call the information that's contained within the dictionary on the JSON document, it's basically the same, except that you need to name each and every column that's on the dictionary. For example, we use basically the same syntax, except that right after the name of the dictionary, we use a period, then the name of the column that we want to call. We can alias that as well. If you want to call the list or array, you need to do enumeration. For example, same method, except that the enumeration is starting on 0. The first value is always going to be 0, the second is going to be 1, and the third is going to be 2. Now, let's see what this looks like. And there it is. As you can see on the screen, I have the ID on the table, I have the date, I even have the raw JSON that's on the column in the table. And this is the segmented information per column. For example, I got product code, I got the product name, class authorization, main composition. This is the portion of the dictionary, and this is the portion of the list. I'm gonna do another insert, another JSON document insert on the table. There's gonna be a slight difference compared to the first insert, which is this one here. And the difference lies on the list. Now, the first list had only 3 items, as you can see right here on the screen. Item number 1, which is item 0, item number 2, which is item 1, and item number 3, which is item 2. In this case, in this one here, on the list, I have 4 items. Item number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Let's see what happens when I do the insert. Successfully inserted the document. Now, how do we see the difference? What do we see here? Let's run the select statement for once. We can see both JSON documents very well. We can see the main information from one and the other, but we're missing item number 4 from the list. So how do we get item number 4 from the list? We need to copy the last value from the query and add it to the bottom. If we run this again, we have all of the items on the list from the second item that we enter right here. On the first item, since we don't have a 4th one, this is going to come as null. But this is part of the good things that you can do with JSON documents. They can have different schema from different inserts. All you got to do is find a way to look for the workaround so you can see all of your data. Again, you need to be aware and knowledgeable of all the columns that you have on your JSON document so you can run this query properly. I'm going to give you a special bonus here. I mentioned in the beginning that this is not a MongoDB tutorial, but it has to be in a way. So I'm going to show you how to create a database using MongoDB Compass and then using the shell. First off, databases are called databases in MongoDB, but tables are called collections. So you get acquainted with the difference between one and the other. Now, to create a database in MongoDB Compass, You basically just go and click the plus sign here where you see the databases, and then you type your database name. We're going to call this one inventory. Now, right there, I can also create a collection if I want to, which is a table. I'm going to call this one product data. Okay. I'm going to create my database and my collection. Good. Now, in order for me to put information into MongoDB, I can do it in different ways. I can use the shell, or I can just click right here on add data. And the way to add the data is by using an option that's called import JSON or CSV file, or I can insert a document directly into the table. The way we're going to do it is by inserting the document. The import JSON or CSV file is useful when you have multiple JSON documents. It could be in a text file or it could be in a CSV file, depending on what you have. Right now, I'm going to show you how to insert it using a document. Okay, so basically you have a structure here where you paste the same structure as the document we inserted in SQL. I'll show you in a second. Okay, here we go. So I just ran the select statement again right here. And as you can see, I have all my information. So in theory, I can just copy the column the way it is. And as I go back to MongoDB, which is right here, I can paste the contents of that column. It's not very organized, but thankfully we have an option here on MongoDB. It's called format. Now, if we click format, as you can see, MongoDB will automatically format this entry for you. Okay, so all you got to do is hit insert, and you will see your first record. Same thing applies for the second record, even if it has another object on the array, as I mentioned before. Let me look for it quickly. Here it is. Okay, we're on MongoDB. We go add data, insert document. This is a template. You can delete it. It doesn't matter. Paste what you got from SQL. Click the format button. So you can see my list or array has 4 elements. Click insert. And there it is. Now I'm going to show you how you can bring your SQL information into MongoDB from scratch. Okay. This, we don't have the inventory database here, so we're going to have to create it. This time we're going to do it with Mongo shell. Okay. To open up the MongoDB shell, just click here. I already did, so it's this side. Now, I need to create a database. So if you need to create a database in MongoDB, you just say use and the database name. If the database does not exist, it will create it for you. Very clever. Okay, so we're there. Now, we need to go back to SQL in order to get the script to insert the information. So let's see what we have in SQL. And what I have here is a predetermined format for the MongoDB shell. In MongoDB, when you need to enter information, you can use a command that's called insert one if it's going to be inserted one by one, or you can do an insert many. In this case, we're just going to see the insert one. Okay, so let's run this portion, which is formatted to create the script for you, and we'll execute it. Now, this reads from the product data table and from the product JSON column. So it brings back the format that you need to do the insert one. So we're going to take the first line here, and we're going to take it back to MongoDB shell. Now in MongoDB shell, we're just going to paste that information and we're going to hit enter. Once we do that, we get an acknowledgement from MongoDB saying it was true and that it inserted an object. If we go back to the MongoDB selection where we can see all the databases, we should hit reload data so that it shows. We see that we have the inventory database and we also have the product data. If we want to add the next item, we can go back to SQL anytime we want. Go back to the very same script. We select the record below. We copy that. We go back to MongoDB on the shell, paste it, and we get the acknowledgement. Now, when we get the acknowledgement, let's do a refresh of the data. And there it is. I have my dictionaries and I have my arrays, my lists. As you can see, for MongoDB, this is an array, but it's basically the same, an array and a list. We call it list in Python. So this will be the end of the video. And if you have any questions, you can leave it in the comment. You can reach me by email, go to my website, and please don't forget to like and subscribe if you find this useful for you. Thank you for watching.